creating content was never really part of the plan. I was like, oh, I just want a tattoo. What's the setup? How many cameras? One thing tattooers are really good at is rejecting new ideas. Some say the best. If you're uncomfortable, you're growing. I'm John. Remember?
Yeah. I saw you had a bunch of interviews today.
Yes, so I was on the other end. I was hosting them.
Right.
So it's a little easier. It's like, hey, here's a question. You talk now.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
And so that's kind of like we've been working on formatting the podcast, and I know you have the Unemployable podcast.
Correct.
So how did you figure out how you were going to format that when you first started it?
So that's a good question. I mean, creating content was never really part of the plan, or even producing any kind of media. I was like, oh, I just want a tattoo.
Yeah.
Right? So we started with the skits. It was fun. The end result was rewarding. And like what I mean by that is like having a funny video that I could just like show my friends.
Yeah.
It started to evolve and grow. And I'm always someone that's like, if you're comfortable, you're not growing. If nothing's changing, nothing's changing, right?
Yeah, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, like we're doing the content thing now already. What's the next step? So I was just like, let's start a podcast, which was pretty interesting because I'd never listened to a podcast when I said that. I was just like, hey, I think we should probably do one of those,
dude.
And I wasn't sure what we were getting into. I wasn't sure about formatting. And I mean, like, everything was new. And honestly, I wanted it to be a good product. So everything was kind of stressful in the beginning because I wanted it to be quality.
Right.
So the first, like, major hurdle was, like, well, where are we going to do it? Well, what's the camera angles going to be? What's the setup? How many cameras? What is the background going to be? So I start watching and researching, and I'm like, oh, this person has like these cool, colored lights or aesthetic. We should copy that, like in the background, the backlit. And then just figuring it out, I did stress over the format a little bit because I was like, is it supposed to be a certain way? If I don't do it that way, is it wrong? And you're like asking questions and everyone has an opinion like, oh, it has to like be a specific thing. Because I was like, can I just like have a conversation?
Yeah.
They're like, no, that's boring. Like you have to have like a message. You have to do this, whatever. So I was like, I don't know. Like I'm just going to bring on like my friends, not even all tattoo artists, and just talk to them and see what happens. I just wanted it to be authentic.
That's where I'm at, and I feel like we're struggling a little bit. It's like everybody's got their opinion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, on like how it should be, but I just love doing this. Like, I love the science behind it. I love good conversation with good people, and like delivering educational content to people that maybe just are just starting out that want to know more about the business.
Right. Now, I mean, people will say like, hey, there should be like a message or like a common theme, in your pod or your content, so people like know what to expect, and maybe that's the reason they go to it, which I think is accurate. So if you can have like some themes of consistency, I think that helps with viewership because they know what to expect when watching your video.
Right.
But I wouldn't put too much stress on it that it like discourages you from making the content in the first place.
Dude, that's good information. And that's like really stuff that I stress with.
Yeah.
Because like everything else is cool. Like I can handle everything else. But I've also had a huge problem with like delegation.
Okay.
Like being able to like separate jobs and trust other people to do those jobs.
Yeah.
But now I have a crew that I feel like I can kind of trust to do the other things that I can't be around to do.
I mean, sure, especially if you have like a vision and you want things done a certain way, and people will say like, if you want something right, do it yourself. And when does that remain true, and when is it just smarter to delegate or to hire out?
Right.
And I think a big part of the success with working with a team is really just communication.
Communication's a tough one,
right?
Especially in a place like this. We had 2 cameramen that were wireless the whole time during live events.
Yeah.
Like, so we were just trying to cover all the awards.
Right.
And 2 cameras isn't enough for Villain Art Chicago.
No.
This is a terrible place to start doing it because it's just it's ridiculous how big and how many people are here.
Right.
What's your opinion on AI in the industry right now?
I mean, I think it's great. I think it's a tool. The one thing tattooers are really good at is rejecting new ideas. Some say the best, you know? So like, okay, it's new, we have a new idea. It seems to be maybe less rejected than other new ideas.
Yeah.
Being someone that does a realism style, I think it's great because what is it doing? It's producing new references.
Yeah, high quality images too.
Sure. I think like anything, just like when the iPad came out, you need to take your time to learn the tool, right? Like, okay, yeah, like AI is going to make things easier, but that doesn't always mean it's easy. Like, take the time, learn how to use prompts, do research in the different platforms. Like, Midjourney is not the only one. You know, don't be afraid to chase some of the more in-depth ones like Stable Diffusion or things like that. And like me personally, like when I'm generating AI references, sometimes it's 10 minutes, sometimes it's 2 hours. You know, I'm making variations, I'm playing with the prompts, like I'm really trying to sculpt this image, even like playing with the aspect ratio or the format of the design. And if I can't quite get it right, then I'll make a bunch of references and just do it old school and like, you know, merge them together.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good thing.
There's a lot of things to learn, I have noticed. Like you were talking about each prompt. And like you can really, if you know the language behind it, you can really get the image you're wanting out of it too.
Yeah, and like don't be afraid to like watch a YouTube video, to ask friends. Some people are like embarrassed that they're using AI, which I don't see any reason to be embarrassed. Like it's more embarrassing to copy someone else, you know?
That's facts, yeah. In my opinion, yeah. Have you noticed like a surge in hypercriticism since you've become like pretty relevant inside the industry?
Hypercriticism in what way?
So like, I would have done this way. I would have done this way.
Like on the artwork?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I guess I could answer that even generally speaking. I wasn't ignorant to the fact that like when the attention was building, you know, there's a bigger audience. Like, therefore, you're going to get more opinions, bigger opinions. So, like, I knew that was happening.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's definitely criticism. I don't spend too much time, like, in the comments or in the criticism. Like, I have people out there that I respect, that I want their opinion, and like I was asking their opinion long before we ever started doing anything on social media. But through that process, like meeting other people that are involved in social media or content creation, or maybe they have a big following, like seeing how discouraged they can become over the criticism, like I feel bad. Like I'm always like, yo, who even cares? These are people you've never met, like whatever. The internet is just like a toxic place, and if you don't know that going in, like you're about to find out, you know? Yeah. But most of the time, like if I am in the comments, like I grew up talking shit with the boys, like making fun of each other.
Right.
That's kind of how we like hang out.
Yeah.
So people are like talking shit in the comments. It's like a sport. I'm like, all right, I'll get in there, I'll throw some back, and that's about, you know.
What advice would you give to people that are trying to? What's the biggest advice you would give to somebody that comes up to you and says, "I'm trying to grow my brand"?
Trying to grow my brand. Well,
and we're talking like, so it could be anything, I suppose, like the t-shirt industry, the print artwork industry, tattoos in general, just like your particular brand.
So you always want to be inspired. You always want to be creating something you enjoy. For me, I'm chasing that end result, which will make it worth producing. Whether it's tattoos, whether it's content, whether it's jewelry, whether it's clothing. It keeps me motivated because I typically enjoy creating and I'm excited to get to the end result. there have been times where I just did stuff for money that I did not enjoy doing, and it never lasts. You know, it very quickly gets to a point where I'm like, it's not worth the money anymore. I have no fun creating this.
So it kind of has to be for you, like as a person.
That's for me at least. Also, I would say like more business-wise, not as much creative. Like you really have to be involved in your numbers. That was something that I tried to avoid even in the early stages of owning a shop. Like I didn't want to deal with the numbers, the accounting, the margins, anything like that.
Yeah.
So even recently, like with starting my own podcast, like we tried to keep the initial investment low, and especially the maintenance. I see so many of these people like doing the podcast, doing the content creation that have such high margins and think they can just like bulldoze into the industry and throw money at it. And it typically ends the same, where yeah, maybe they're, you know, making 10, 20,000 a month, but they're spending 10, 20,000 a month. And
Right.
it's like, yo, if you just kind of like set the bar a little bit lower, you know, maybe your initial investment was way lower, you know, your running costs were lower, there wouldn't be as much pressure to make all this money, and you might enjoy it more, and you could just kind of grow with your business.
I will say I agree with that 100%. Like
Yeah.
when we came to Villain Arts and we were wanting to do this.
Yeah.
This is unpaid. All this is
Right,
unpaid.
right.
This is just something I love to do for
Yeah.
conventions, and that's where we're trying to like kind of leap forward.
Yeah.
Is like I noticed as a tattoo artist at conventions, I want to see what the awards are, and
Sure.
never is there a really good setup to where we can do that as artists while we're tattooing in the back. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So I just wanted to provide that service and like fill that need. You know?
Sure. Yeah, I would say specific to tattooers, you know, we are at a tattoo convention. If
Yep.
you want to grow your brand, I think traveling, guest spots, meeting new people, networking, which can all be intimidating, but I think it's necessary. Saying yes to opportunities you can afford. You know, even like you asking me to come on this, yes, I'm going to
Yeah.
do this, I'm here, I'm traveling. Like I didn't travel, I'm not leaving my home state to like sit in my booth the whole time.
True.
You know, I'm
yeah.
going to go out, I'm going to meet people, I'm going to talk to companies. You know, I'm going to go up to, let's say, like Bishop and be like, listen, I use your machine. I love it. I just wanted to say hi. You know, or maybe I hear someone release a new product.
Yeah.
I'm going to go up to that company and be like, hey, I heard you released this new product. I'm really interested. Can you tell me about it? You know, and I'm going to get in their face. I'm going to be like, I'm John. Remember?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then the next time I travel, maybe they'll see, you
Right.
know, or at least pretend to remember me, you know?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
this is important, like getting in the faces. I always tell my guys, like, if you're going to go to a convention, talk to every company you use and just bother them. Yeah, I don't care if you annoy them or piss them off. Like, make them remember who you are.
Yeah, they'll eventually,
You know? Have your name
say hi.
like stuck in their head, and then like talk to other artists. I can't say this enough. Talk to other artists. I can't even tell you how many friends, like friends, actual friends, not like work friends, I've made just this year by like talking to other artists. And like that feeling of like intimidation or being uncomfortable or feeling awkward, like everyone has that. I have that.
Yeah.
I have that now. There was a couple new people I wanted to talk to now, and I'm like, all right, I gotta go talk to them. I just, hey, what's up? Like your artwork, like what you're working on. Like it's so important and crucial to building your business and your network.
And there is some just next level artists here too.
100%.
Including one at your booth. I heard he hasn't been doing it that long either.
Yeah, I'm not 100%, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. It just,
Some of these new artists are just getting so good so quick.
what would be your advice to, so like an apprentice that knows they're gonna make mistakes?
Yeah.
What would you tell them to keep their head up in a situation where obviously we're so competitive in the industry,
Right.
and like you're gonna get put down?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you're gonna have to learn how to cope, right? And yeah, like you said, you know you're gonna make mistakes, but you're gonna make like new mistakes. So how can you prepare for that? I don't know really how much you can, but what you can be like, okay, I'm gonna make this mistake, and then I'm gonna like learn how to deal with it. I'm gonna learn how to cope with it. Like I said before, if you're uncomfortable, you know, you're growing. So you can be grateful, like, oh, I'm really uncomfortable right now. Sometimes I'll tell myself, like, this is good. This means I'm growing.
Right.
Right? It's never an issue to make a mistake. We just want to try to not make the same mistakes, right? You're allowed to make mistakes. if you don't know, you don't know. You only know as much as you know.
Sure, yeah.
And hopefully you're surrounded by people that allow you to make mistakes and that help you, like I said, not make the same mistakes. But I think there's a time to reflect in a way that it's like, okay, I did that wrong. I shouldn't feel great about that, and I'm going to learn, and there also should be a time to like forgive. Like, well, I didn't know. I don't have to like beat myself up too bad, and I can move forward.
As long as we don't make it again, we just gotta keep moving forward every time.
Right.
So the last question I have for you, this one may be easy or hard depending on your opinion on it, but do you think it is possible for somebody to come into the industry in 2024 and be a part-timer?
And be a part-timer. I mean, yeah, we see it all the time. Like, is it possible? Sure. What does that mean? Like, you do like one tattoo a week, and then like, you have a side job or digital marketing, or maybe you're like, a stay-at-home parent, or you work for a family company, whatever. Like, yeah, it's possible. I don't have that experience, so it's hard for me to relate. Like, sometimes people come in and they're like, hey, I'm looking to like work part-time, and I'm like, I don't even know how to format that for you.
Right.
Like, I'm not the one, it doesn't make sense to me.
It's like the growing part. Like, how do you grow as quick as you want to?
Yeah.
If you enjoy doing it and you enjoy the process, it's kind of like, why wouldn't you dive into that full force,
Yeah, I just know, like, when I was coming up and when I was tattooing, like, I just wanted to be, like, so good. And honestly, I wasn't. And I was like, how do I get better? And I didn't know where to go, so I went on the internet and I started looking up to, like, all these successful people, whether it's, like, fighters, athletes, musicians, just successful business people. And one thing that I found common is, like, they all were putting in, like, 100 hours a week. So these, like, top-tier people. I heard the 10,000 hours thing. I heard, like, if you want to be a master, you have to do it this many times. And I felt like everyone was so much farther ahead than I was. Like, at the time, I was working with Tyler Nolan. He's who I opened the shop with. And he was just like up here, and I was up here. And I was like, if I have any chance of catching him, I have to work more than him.
Twice as hard.
So like, how do I even do that? And that was just the mindset that I was approaching the industry with. And I had such passion. So it's not even that like I look down on people that are part-time. I'm really just trying to find the other people that have the passion that I have, because those are the people that I want to be around.
Yeah, and I feel like I've developed this need to not be the best in the room too.
Sure.
Like, I always want to be looking up, you know what I mean? So I can just keep striving for that, that top spot. Not that I'll ever reach it, but I feel like if you try to attain it, at least you'll keep yourself getting better over the years. I feel like you've got people that have been doing it for 2 years that are just like these dogs. Like, they're so good at tattooing, and they went to art school and they did all this, and they just have all this cool experience. And then you've got people that have been doing it for 20 plus years that just stopped learning in 2003.
Right, and it's like, how do you hold on to that?
Yeah.
And I think the goal should always be that question: how do I hold on to this? How do I stay motivated? How do I keep it going? Like, one of my biggest fears is like, I'm like, oh, eventually, like, you're going to slow down, Like, I don't want this to be the peak. I want to just, like, keep going, you know what I mean? And stay in it and stay learning and accepting the new tools and growing with the industry and not getting left behind,
Yeah, that's a good perspective. I love it. Guys, this has been John Nelson. You can follow him on Instagram. What's your Instagram tag specifically?
John Nelson _tattoos.
Honestly, I've been watching you for three years. I've been tattooing for only 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
But I have been watching you basically the whole time, and the reason is because, like, you kind of hit that niche of, like, the funny side of tattooing, like all the problems that we all deal with, like I saw the back team video that Alex was in, and like I just saw it yesterday. It came out on my Instagram for yous, but I really appreciate you stopping in.
Thanks for having me, man.
Dude, taking the time was like such a big thing for me, and I know that you were busy and doing your interviews and stuff, so it was great to have you. I appreciate you so much.